Hey guys, we're back in Langley, British Columbia, Canada. Recently checked out the Specialized Turbo Vado. It was a new bike, new model in Specialized lineup. And a few people said, hey, I want to hear about the Vado. You know, let's check out some of the updates because this bike has been refined over the years. The first time I covered it was at a special launch event in Palo Alto, California in 2017. And I have to be honest with you, the frame design felt a little awkward to me because the battery was in the down tube, as it still is, but it was kind of like triangular towards the base, and there's something about it. I mean, you know, so many great features, awesome hardware, good performance, but I love the way the new one looks so much more. So we're looking at the 4.0 here. They do have a 3.0 and a 5.0, and the main difference here is that the motor gives you more torque. So here we get 70 Newton meters of torque versus 50 on the 3.0 and 90 on the 5.0. They've got some really cool configurations now with like a belt drive, internally geared hub, like the NVOLO, continuously variable transmission, and even the NVOLO automatique, like the automatically shifting for the 5.0 model. We're focused on this one, kind of mid-tier. A lot of really great features on these bikes, and they're so clean. I mean, first of all, it comes in two different frame styles. So we've got this kind of mid-step with the double tubing for stiffness right there, but still very approachable. And then we have the classic diamond, like high step. Each one of these comes in 3 different colors, which is wonderful, and 4 frame sizes. So lots of fit options. Really comfort oriented. Specialized has their like body geometry touch points. You can see that right here on the saddle. This is called the Revo. We've got the locking ergonomic grips, and then this nice kind of like riser, a little bit swept back handlebar, and a suspension seat post now. So this is 30.9 millimeters, 40 millimeters of travel. It does have adjustable preload. So if you take that out, there's like a hex bolt underneath, and you can tighten or loosen it for preload. Same thing with the suspension fork. So this is the SR Suntour Mobi, and it's the R32, so that's 32 millimeter stanchion. These are steel stanchions. It's a spring fork, so it's not quite as light or dynamic as an air fork, but for something like this, I mean, to me, this is a perfect hybrid bike. It's combining some mountain bike features with some city kind of urban features and a lot of the utility with the fenders and racks and stuff. So anyway, this suspension fork does give you lockout. It gives you preload adjust, and we have a 15 millimeter thru-axle there, so it's extra stiff, it's sturdy, gives you that ruggedness to maybe go off-road a little bit. And back here, we've got a 12 millimeter axle and boost hub spacing, 148 millimeters, so a little bit wider to give you better spoke bracing angle, and then some extra space for this awesome 11-speed cassette. So before I get into this, I just want to call out some of the really neat features here. So 2 bottle cage bosses for the mid-step, or kind of a step-through design. They do call this step-through. That's pretty neat. A lot of companies with e-bikes, because there's the battery in the down tube, a lot of the batteries, they'll be mounted on the tubes and things. Some of them don't have any bottle cage bosses, so to have 2 here is just fantastic. And they've put these upper ones up much higher so you could reach your bottle if you were actually using that for fluids. This one, there's not a whole lot of space here, but you could use that for a folding lock or a mini pump or something like that. Lots of great options. On the high step, they're a little bit more reachable and usable. And that frame is going to be maybe a little bit stiffer. This one could have some frame flex, but by having the 2 tubes, you do get a good amount of stiffness, and I appreciate this. This weighs about 58 pounds, as you see here. I weighed it earlier. The battery is like 8.5 pounds, and it's mounted into the down tube. You could take that out if you want to, which is really nice. Makes the bike a little bit easier to lift. And then the motor weight, I think that's like 6.4 pounds. So a lot of the weight is low and center on the frame, but this does weigh a little bit more just because it does have these awesome aluminum alloy fenders, pretty wide here, giving you excellent coverage. The suspension fork I talked about. One of the things I noticed on the Turbo Vado is that we've got this badge here, and I believe that is removable, and you could mount like a front tray basket kind of thing. A couple people said, hey, I haven't seen that basket anywhere. I haven't either, but I did check with the Specialized rep, and he was like, yeah, you know, it's future compatibility thing. I don't have an image to show you, but you can kind of speculate. If you look at the Turbo Como, it comes with this like tray and then this plastic bucket thing. So I imagine it's going to be pretty similar. And then I kind of wonder what will happen with this light. I really like the way they've set this up. So the light is mounted to this like upper part, like where the crowns are on the suspension fork, not down here on the arch. And what that means is that this is sprung. So this lower part's going to be sliding around if you're off-road and stuff, bumping up and down, and the light beam would be scattered, and it might even get loose over time. So mounting it up here is primo. Like, I love that. That's something really exciting. And this is a great light. It's from Lezine, and it's like 210 lumens, very bright. One downside is that it doesn't have side windows, and I'm all about safety. So, you know, you look at the reflective sidewall stripes on the tires. We've got some other little reflective accents and stuff on the bike. They do a really good job, and this lighter color appeals to me for safety. We also have an integrated rear light. So this rear rack is just awesome. 27 kilogram max weight. It's about 60 pounds. That's like as high as I tend to see them. It's got the integrated light right here. MIK HD compatible for some of those accessories that lock on. Pannier hangers with a little slider blocker so your panniers don't shift around as you stop. We've got a bungee loop at the bottom. I mean, it's just everything, and it connects to the fenders here in 2 places to add that extra strength, and then the fenders connecting right there and there as well. So these are like really cool fenders. Drytech, and then this Flextender, this long piece right here. It's this rubberized thing that does occasionally get caught on low obstacles like curbs or logs or something, but it just sort of flexes out of the way, and it directs, well, first of all, it keeps your shins and shoes clean, and maybe the battery stuff down here, but it also directs the water sort of up and then out to the sides versus up into your face. So they have some really cool videos on the site. I just love that. And coming back to the tires for a minute, and the tire size, it's a really good combination. Like, again, that hybrid philosophy. So they call these the Pathfinder Sport. They do have black belt puncture protection built in. They're 650B size, so that's 27.5 inches, and then 2.3 wide. So you're getting a little bit of width for stability, bigger contact patch, some comfort because of the air volume, and then look, there's like a solid rubber strip right down the middle, so when you're going straight and you're on like a paved bike path or something, it's going to be really quiet and efficient and smooth. And then when you need some grip, you've got that sort of flared out to the side. So I feel like these are exciting. It's kind of a neat pattern. Check out the black hub, the black spokes, the black rims here, Specialized branded. I mean, they really go to town on all their stuff. And the bike is just really set up well. Here's some more mounting points for adding maybe like a frame lock on the rear that would clamp the rear wheel so people couldn't just walk off with your bike. Really cool security features too with the app where you can lock the bike and then people can't operate it unless they have the pin or your smartphone to sort of unlock it. And there's some beeping and haptic feedback. It's sort of like a Bluetooth enabled security thing. So this doesn't have like a GPS chip where you can track the bike and stuff, but it would disable it. And one of the other advantages of having like a smarter bike like this is you can update the firmware yourself with your smartphone versus having to go to the dealer all the time. So really exciting. And I may be getting ahead of myself here. Let's look at the drivetrain a little bit more. Standard 170 millimeter crank arms, Praxis right here, but they've got that little scuff sticker, which is really nice. Just going to keep them looking nicer if your pants or your shoes brush up against them. Kind of these nylon plastic pedals with grip tape, so a little bit more casual than like the big ones with the aggressive pins and stuff. Love that they've got a plastic guard on that 40-tooth chainring, and then a plastic cover with a top and bottom rubberized slap guard. And they really nailed it here. They're keeping the frame in great shape. This is a narrow, wide tooth pattern on that steel chainring, so it's going to lock onto the chain and not drop it very easily if you do go off-road, a little bit of trail riding, maybe light trail riding. And then the chain comes back here. We got the SRAM NX derailleur, the 11-speed cassette, and it goes 11 to 42 teeth, so it's a really wide spread, which gives you lots of options to navigate tons of different terrain. It's just a fun setup, very capable bike in my opinion. If we come over to this side, we got the kickstand, and this is a little bit of a gripe to me. It looks nice, you know, it's fancy, kind of lightweight. It might not bounce around as much, but the end point is, it's a point, it's sort of sharp, and it can push into soft terrain. So that's one of the trade-offs to be aware of. But very clean. I'm not like, you know, hitting my shoe or anything when I'm pedaling it. It stows up like that. And when you back the bike up, you're not getting pedal lock or anything. So very well done. And of course the brakes, 180 millimeter rotors, front and rear, dual piston calipers. These are SRAM. Check out these brake levers, really big reservoir right here. They're the SRAM Level 2-finger, so you really don't need a whole lot of hand effort to actuate these things. It's kind of almost like a mountain bike spec, just between the size, which gives you a mechanical advantage, and some cooling properties, but also just the adjustability on these. You can bring these levers in a little bit if you have smaller hands. Maybe you're getting one of the smaller frame sizes, more approachable. They've made this bike just kind of like so capable for almost like overkill for just casual around town. And I keep thinking to myself, if I was gonna get one bike, I like to have the comfort of the suspension and stuff, but I still occasionally like to go off-road. So it's nice to have a bike that's not just gonna get shaken to pieces, it's not gonna vibrate apart, and you're gonna have the stopping power that you need, really like mountain bike level stuff, so you don't have to worry about it. Nice little flick bell that they give you to signal people and be friendly out on the trail. Look at the aerodynamic stem. These are spacers right here, and just the way this is done, it's not just like cheap off the shelf parts. Specialized does a lot of their stuff custom, which is really nice to see. Internally routed cables all over the frame, so you know, it is a little bit busy up here, but then they very quickly get hidden. I want to point out the motor and talk about some of the specs. This is 250 watt rated. It's Brose in partnership with Specialized. They call it the Specialized 2.0. I mentioned 70 Newton meters of torque on the 4.0. That's still very high. It's been very capable, and it's measuring your rear wheel speed. You can actually see a magnet embedded here, kind of mounted to the rear hub, so it's not on a spoke, it's not going to get bumped or anything. So rear wheel speed, pedal cadence, and pedal torque. It's very dynamic. I think it supports over 120 RPM, so as you're pedaling, if you pedal quickly, the motor doesn't fade out. It can provide plenty of support. This is kind of like a mountain bike rated motor. It's compact, as I mentioned before, about 6.4 pounds, fairly lightweight. The black housing looks okay here. You know, there's some other black accents, and I think that's just, you know, kind of part of the deal. They've done a good job. There's not a whole lot of silver on this bike. They've just tied it in as nicely as possible, and I feel like this is a pretty proven motor. It's definitely one of the big guys. It does not have shift detection like Bosch, so if you're pedaling hard and that motor is in the highest level of support and it's really going 70 Newton meters of torque, or 90 if you get the 5.0 Vado, you know, you can mash the gears and just add some strain on the cassette, the teeth and stuff. So keep that in mind. That's one of the little trade-offs. And then also where the locking core is mounted down here. So this is where you have to unlock the bike, and you might notice that, you know, if I insert these keys and then I move this crank arm, it gets pretty close, not quite there, but very close. And right under it is a little charge port, so you get access to charging the battery on the frame. You don't have to take it off, but again, it's nice that you can, to save that weight, or just to store the battery in a cool, dry location, because the extreme heat, the extreme cold, they're just kind of hard on the battery. The cold limits your range. The battery like gets cold, it can't go as far, and the heat can actually damage the lithium-ion cells over time. So this is what the charger looks like. This is the case they give you. Lots of cool documentation, a lanyard, and the keys and everything. A magnetic tip, so you can plug this right into the battery, and if you do snag it on those crank arms, trip over it or something, it just pops right out. It's not gonna like tip the bike over or anything. 4 amp charger. It's a little bit heavier. It's not too bulky, considering 4 amps. You're gonna charge that battery a lot faster and be back out there riding or going farther, and I like that. Really high quality stuff. $4,000 US for this bike. To me, that's awesome, considering that it's fully feature complete with the lights and everything. So I'll come back over to the battery here for a second. I'm not quite done showing this. So, you know, you kind of twist this, and then there's that first step on the unlock, and then when you push it all the way, the battery like comes out, and be careful, because see, it you know, it hit the fender, right? Like, you might want to have one hand here and then use your other hand for the keys, but I wanted to show that it doesn't just fall right out. There's actually like a bar, and this thing's on kind of a hinge in there, so to get it off, you kind of have to wiggle it around and push it forward. It's maybe a two-hand kind of thing, but eventually the battery will come right off like that. Yeah, and there's some weight there. So this is a 36.3 volt, 19.6 amp hour, roughly 710 watt hour battery pack. There's no like obvious handle or anything, but there's a little bit of a ridge. So if you carry this around, just be careful not to drop it. There's a lot of other warnings here about how to store it properly, and that you want to keep it charged. Try not to let it get all the way discharged, because that sort of strains the cells as well. Okay, so I've got the battery hooked up again and kind of push it up there, and it clicks in that first part, and then you use this lever to tighten it the rest of the way, and then you can remove the keys. The keys won't come out until you take those 2 steps. Now we can get into the display. So this thing is actually removable, but you have to take the mount off, and then there's like a little bolt under the bottom. If you do that, you can twist this thing off. The thing is, even if you do that, it's still wired onto the bike. It's sort of like semi-permanently attached, but I thought that was neat in case you get some other mounts up here. It's sort of the twist fit that might work with them, and add another light or something. Powering it on, button right there in the center, and it comes to life very quickly. It's color, it's bright, a little bit of adjustable angle, and there's a USB-C charging port on the side. How cool is that? And I think it's 5 volts, 1 full amp, so you could charge your smartphone, and the app is very cool. I made a separate video on that, and there's so many features on that. Just at a high level, it lets you unlock the bike with Bluetooth. You can adjust the brightness on this, turn off the beep, the haptic. I wish some of those settings were in the display itself, because it does have a good settings menu, but the app also lets you kind of plan trips and set a distance and then arrive there with a certain amount of battery left over. You can match your heart rate so that the bike gives you more or less support, and you can maintain your exercise level. It's a really cool app. One of my favorites, just so dynamic. And it's the same app for like all of the bikes, and it just gets better over time. So to me, Specialized is doing a great job, and I like this display for a lot of reasons. By the way, all of the electronics on this, the motor, the battery, the display, it's like IPX6 rated, so pretty durable against water and dust and stuff, which is great to see. So up here we've got the assist level, sport, the time, kind of like a clock, battery percentage, I love that, it's very precise, the current speed in the middle, and then down here, I think if we press the buttons plus or minus, we're going to see different levels of assist with different colors. So turbo is like orange, and you know, it's kind of the highest, and if we go down, we got sport, and then eco is blue, and you can just go off, and then you'd ride this around with like your headlights on for safety. So they're on by default. Again, very bright, and I love that the rear one does wrap around. It's kind of got this light tube, so you're visible from more angles, and it's not super exposed like down here where it could get kind of kicked or bunked at the bike rack. And then let's see here, if we press this F1, it's like kind of a function button. It cycles through some different layouts, and you can actually configure these with the smartphone app as well, so you can position things the way you want them. So we got distance, ride time, battery percentage, consumption, estimated range, range trending, so very good to help you plan those trips. It's really nice. Pretty good range with these mid drives as well. And then altitude gain, another big layout with a lot of the same things. Infinite tune, calories, odometer. So infinite tune is cool. There's this other button here, F2. If you press that, it kind of goes to like 50%, and then you can adjust that. So you can take any level of assist and you can fine tune it even more using infinite tune. Go ahead and turn that off. I think if we hold the plus button here, we're going to get walk mode, which is nice. Let's see if we, oh, I think it doesn't work unless you're in one of the assist levels. So we go up to eco, hold plus, and there we go, walk mode. Very handy. Again, about 58 pounds, and that's for the step-thru. I haven't weighed them all, so around 60 pounds, plus you might have 60 pounds worth of cargo or a child seat on that rear rack. So walk mode's handy. And then F1, if we hold that, that would turn off the lights, which is kind of nice. Again, to adjust the brightness of this display, you need the app, and really they're pushing people to register the bike to get the full warranty and stuff. And there's a little QR code sticker on this when I first got the bike, so it's pretty easy to do. I like the app. I'm trying to say that you don't really get all the features unless you register it. I think that's it. I'm going to hop on in a second, but I also want to point out the trigger shifters here. We have a multi-shift for the low gears, and then like a single action for the high. Pretty standard on SRAM. Sometimes I like Shimano because they have like two-way levers here, so you can pull or push, but most of the time I'm using my pointer finger and middle finger to brake. So having both of these actuate with the thumb is just fine for me. I'll go ahead and stow that kickstand, hop on the bike. I like to go up to turbo. And the cool thing is, because it's a multi-sensor, if you're not pedaling hard, this bike isn't gonna like surprise you. See? Nice and smooth. As soon as I really bear down, it kicks in a bit more. Very responsive. Going for the no hands here. Feeling comfortable, especially with that suspension seat post. It's a nice upgrade. I like to go off-road with fenders just to check, you know, how noisy are these things? And these ones are pretty quiet, but the longer rubber flap does flop around a little bit more. For me, it's worth it because you get that good coverage. And then the positioning and stuff, even when your foot's here, there's plenty of clearance for that fender. I'm not kicking it or anything. I just love what they've done. Specialized really innovates a lot. It's a pretty sporty bike, and I think depending on the geography, this could be a speed pedelec, so like class 3 in the United States could go a little bit faster. I'm in Canada right now, so kind of the 20 mile per hour, 32 kilometer per hour, and in Europe it might be 25 kilometers per hour, kind of 15.5 miles per hour. By the way, you could hear rocks and stuff kind of get kicked up into that fender a little bit. This tread isn't too deep, but you still occasionally hear a rock like tink, tink, tink flopping around. The fenders are tubular, so they're a little thicker than they appear on the surface. There's an extra layer in there for strength. Woo. There we go. Satisfying. The multi-sensor motor is just yeah, it feels really good. Well guys, that's it. That's the new 2022 Specialized Turbo Vado 4.0. Again, it'd be fun to look at the MVolo and the automatic, like automatic shifting. I've checked those out on some other bikes in the past. They do add a little bit of weight, they add to the cost. But it's neat, you know, you don't have gears, there aren't steps, and since this doesn't have shift sensing, if you're new to bikes and you want like a ramped feel rather than steps, you might check one of those out. And I was impressed because the 3.0, they do have like the belt drive internally geared hub, which again, I think it's an MVolo, and it was cheaper than this one. So, you know, you might save a couple $100 and try that one out, but you are gonna get a little bit less motor power. I've reviewed a lot of other Specialized electric bikes and some other kind of hybrid, sort of a sporty around town bike with suspension back at ElectricBikeReview.com. I've also measured everything on this bike by hand, and there's a cool compare tool, so you can, you know, look at these, do some price shopping maybe, and then engage with the forums or the comments, see what other people have to say. My goal is to help you and just provide as much data as I can. I hope you have fun out there. I love you guys. We'll see you next time.